Hey, request and you shall receive, Buzz saying. First edition Machamp was a card that everyone had, so let's try to make it work in a deck. If you're interested in finding out why everyone had a first edition Machamp and the story along with that, I also uploaded a video that I will link down in the description. And this deck will be a budget deck that is meant only for fun, as Machamp isn't really a great card to build a deck around. But I do love building decks around certain Pokemon that are my favorites or that have really unique, underused abilities or attacks. So let's get into it. Let's see what we can do with this first edition Machamp. Alright, so of course we're going to start with 4 copies of this little bro. 20 damage for 1 energy is actually really efficient and pretty great. Early Haymaker decks actually use Machop with no Machoke or Machamp in it. That way you could just get a solid 20 damage off on turn 1. I'll also be running a full playset of Mr. Beefcake here. Machamp's energy costs are so high that running Pokemon Breeder just doesn't make any sense for this deck since you're going to have to spend 4 turns powering it up anyway, so you might as well evolve into Machoke, even though Machoke is a shitty, terrible card. And then 3 copies of Super Chad, first edition Machamp. Although it is the star of this deck, you don't really want to start out with Machop because Machoke's attacks are so terrible and because Machamp takes so much energy to attack with. So, as you're preparing your Machamps on the bench, I have included Onix in this deck. It has really high HP for a basic, and it's got an attack for 1 energy, so you're going to be able to utilize it very early game, and it's probably going to last long enough so that you can just switch into a Machamp whenever it's ready. Lickitung in here for similar reasons, high HP and a low cost attack that can help you stall out while you get your Machamps ready. Plus power is a must in this deck, of course, because you're going to go for hyper aggression as soon as you have those Machamps powered up. Seismic Toss deals 60 damage. You're going to need plus power to add on those extra 10. 70 damage is the sweet spot for base set era because it's going to let you knock out Hitmonchans and Electabuzz. Gust of Wind is going to let you pull out weak or vulnerable Pokemon that are on the bench, or a Pokemon that your opponent is saving up, maybe laying a lot of energy down on them. You can bring those out and knock them out whenever possible. Item Finder is going to let you recycle all of those plus powers and gusts of winds depending on the situations that you're put in. If you need that additional damage or if there's just sweet pickings on your opponent's bench that you want to get out, Item Finder will let you utilize those cards from your discard. Because this is a budget deck, I didn't want to include rare trainer cards like Computer Search, so this deck is going to rely heavily on draw power. So a full playset of Bill in here that'll let you get those Machokes and Machamps into your hand so that you can get them onto your bench. I'll also run just a couple of copies of Professor Oak. During the base set era, it could be pretty risky to rely on Professor Oak anytime besides the beginning of the game, so you don't really want to overload them and make yourself deck out. Switch is another must in this deck because Machamp, Onix, Lickitung, they all have terrible retreat costs, so it's not going to be easy swapping out your Machamps with Pokemon on your bench, which does, make this deck very vulnerable to Gust of Wind from your opponent's side. Energy removal is in here to try to stall out your opponent. If you do get gusted out and you're kind of stuck for a little bit before you can swap back into a Machamp and start attacking again, energy removal is going to let you stall out your opponent. But because of the nature of this deck, you don't want to stall very much. You want to open up with an Onix or a Lickitung. That way you're going ahead and you're getting damage onto your opponent. That way you don't have to use as many plus powers. You want to save those for later in the game when you have fully powered Machamps coming out. The first 4 turns of the game are going to be all about getting those Bills and Professor Oaks out so you can get all of the cards you need in your hand. You just want to have enough energy. You want to have the evolution cards you need. That way on turn 4, you've got at least 1 Machamp that you can bring out and start seismic tossing away. Sadly, the base set era didn't have very many good fighting types. Really all you had was Hitmonchan, and because it's a budget deck, I didn't want to throw Hitmonchan in here because it would steal all the spotlight. This deck is about Machamp, damn it! I think Machamp does stand a chance of being really good if its energy costs were only 2 fighting and then a double colorless. That way you could actually power it up in 3 turns instead of 4, but that's not the case. So it does take quite a bit of time to set up early game, and you're going to get outsped by a lot of really fast decks in the format. Of course, the base set era was all about speed. Also tried the deck with Dodrio and Kangaskhan for different kinds of support instead of Lickitung. They didn't work out as well. I much prefer just to have that 10 damage on turn 1 with a Lickitung if I had to start with it. I would love to hear if anyone ever made a successful Machamp deck using this card. So if you have or you have a good experience with it, let me know down in the comments, or let me know how you would change this budget deck to better fit Machamp. Or if you'd like to suggest a deck that you want to see, have at it. I think I'm going to try to do a couple more of these budget videos just to give spotlight to a lot of cards that weren't quite up to par at the time, but could still be really fun to use. And, like, share, subscribe, all of those YouTube things. Until next time, guys, bye.